I want to especially welcome the Honorable Minister for Information and Culture, and thank you so much for coming.
Barka the Salah. Of course, I know you are still in the Salah mood, but I know the dictates of office will not allow you enjoy any holiday, not even to talk about this Salah. Honorable Minister, sir, distinguished guests, let me begin by commending the federal government for its interest in the effective functioning of the broadcast industry in Nigeria. A lot of activities and initiatives aimed at repositioning the broadcast industry have happened, especially under this administration. And I'll mention a few. It is under this administration that we are seeing for the first time the reform of the broadcast sector, which has come out with several laudable interventions. It is under this administration also that the DSO project has been repositioned and refocused, and we're already trying to make inroads across the country with rollout in 6 states and with many more to go going ahead. I want to thank the Minister for following through these government initiatives with exemplary conviction and purpose. Again, not long ago, if you all remember, this ministry was the one who set the pace in the intervention for the post-COVID era, especially regarding the creative industry generally and particular attention to the broadcast industry. Don't forget that it was under his leadership that for the first time there was debt forgiveness for broadcast stations and some massive discount for license fees, which we believe will help dynamize and reposition the industry for greater financial sustainability and also editorial delivery. We want to say at the Commission, at the NBC, that we remain very committed to the laudable objectives of broadcasting in Nigeria, particularly in promoting access to information by Nigerians across social stratification. We are also committed to creating diversities of programming and also interested and committed to offering opportunities for employment and wealth in the broadcast industry, and to generally advance the ideals of democracy and good governance through broadcasting in Nigeria. I believe that as media practitioners, you have been following some of the initiatives, hence the need for this particular party, which has at the crust of it the unveiling of the Sixth Amendment, the amendment to the 6th edition of the Broadcasting Code. I want to thank you for coming, and I hope we have a very good time at this event. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you very much.
For media here, distinguished representatives of the industry, gentlemen of the press. As Professor Idachaba said, this is the season of the Eid Kabir, and I just want to announce that I receive rams and cows throughout the month of August. So those who have not been able to bring their rams and cows, they see the window. Thank you very much. Permit me to formally welcome all of us to this unveiling of the new amendment to the 6th edition of the Broadcasting Code. This event couldn't have come at a more expedient time after the various stakeholders in the industry have ventilated their views on this all-important document. This is an amendment to an existing 6th edition of the Code, which was launched in Kano in July 2019. Before the launch of the Code in Kano, there were wide stakeholders meetings and discussions on virtually all the provisions of the 5th edition, which was now reviewed to become the 6th edition. The amendments were necessitated by a presidential directive in the wake of the 2019 general elections for an inquiry into the regulatory rules of the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, as well as the conduct of the various broadcast stations before, during, and after the elections. Following the inquiry, Mr. President approved many recommendations that will reposition the NBC to perform its regulatory roles better. Key among the recommendations is the need to amend the provisions in the Code and Act. The amendments are mostly in the areas of political broadcasting, local content, coverage of emergencies, advertising, and anti-competitive behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, highlights of the amendments include but are not limited to the following. 1. The provisions on exclusivity and monopoly. This antitrust provision would boost local content and local industry due to regulations prohibiting exclusive use of rights by broadcasters who intend to create a monopoly and own the entire market themselves. This will also encourage open access to premium content by all. I must explain that this provision is not new to Nigerian broadcasting. Exclusivity was disallowed at a certain time in the history of broadcasting. I'm told that multi-choice at a point sub-licensed EPL matches to other local operators in Nigeria. And I recall also that HITV engages several local operators on sub-licensing the EPL when they acquire the rights. Sub-licensing and rights sharing create opportunities for local operators to also gain traction and raise revenues for their platforms and their services. 2, we also have in this amendment a law prohibiting backlog of advertising debts, and this will definitely promote sustainability for the station owners and producers of content. I'm glad to say here that CBN has also followed in our steps, because recently the CBN also made a law that if you owe Bank A and you have money in Bank B, your debts will be, your obligations will be automatically deducted from Bank B. And what we are doing here by this prohibition of backlog of advertising debts, it will ensure that television stations, radio stations, and content producers are not owed money that will make their operations not sustainable. As a matter of fact, the intention is that you need to settle your obligation with a particular radio station before you move to incur debts and that radio or television station. The provision also contains, the code also contains provisions on legislation of web broadcasting. This particular provision grants the country the opportunity to regulate negative foreign broadcasts that harm the country. Such harms include, could be in the areas of security, protection for minors, protection of human dignity, economic fraud, and privacy. There is also a provision in the amended code on responsibility of broadcast stations to devote airtime to national emergencies. This provision mandates terrestrial and pay TV channels to make their service available to the country at times of national emergencies. This amendment was made sometimes last year, and we never knew that we were going to have this COVID-19 pandemic. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all broadcast stations who have donated their time and resources to educate Nigeria and enlighten Nigeria on this COVID-19 pandemic. Another highlight of the amendment is the provision that has raised the fine for hate speeches and divisive messages from ₦500,000 naira to ₦5 million. We believe that this will serve as a deterrent to those who want to use our broadcast stations to sow seed of discord. Permit me to say that Section 2H of the NBC Act actually specifically empowers the Commission to establish and disseminate a national broadcasting code and set standards with regards to the content and quality of materials for broadcasting. From the above, it is clear that it is a regulatory function to establish the code. It is democratic when the regulator engages stakeholders to get their views. This could be done in several ways, including questionnaires, conferences, face-to-face discussions, and focus group discussions. Once the regulator has factored all the views, he takes a decision to codify provisions that best address the needs of the country. This is precisely what NBC has done in this case. What I've observed in the reactions to the last amendment are interests who believe that their singular business interests are superior to the national interest. They therefore have resorted to all kinds of blackmail, using hack writers, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, we remain unperturbed because we are acting in the national interest. The Broadcasting Code is not a static document. As we often say, broadcasting is dynamic. Therefore, even the 6th edition of the code shall be reviewed at the appropriate time. But as it currently stands, the 6th edition, which we are unveiling today, with the amendment, which have now, we have to take that again, but as it currently stands, the 6th edition and the amendments which we now want to unveil remains the regulations for broadcasting in Nigeria. Our attention remains the good of the country. We need to catalyze the growth of the local industry. We need to create jobs for our teeming creative youths. The opportunities must be created, and we believe that effective regulatory interventions are a sure way of attaining this. That is why we will not waver. For those who still have misgivings about the amendment to the 6th edition of the code, we expect you to meet with the regulator and present your views. As I said earlier, the opportunities to constantly review the code. But please note that this latest amendment is signed, sealed, and delivered. And we are committed to making it work for the good of the country. I thank you all for your very kind attention. To present to you the good amendment of the sixth edition of the code. Already, we have the sixth edition is there, and the new amendments have been amendments, and they all qualified into one document about COVID-19 pandemic. As a matter of fact, twice a week, the PTF COVID-19 we have live media briefing, which is carried live by most, television stations. And like I say, we are very grateful for their cooperation. Now, this is a national emergency, and really it is nothing to do with whether there will be taxes or the rebates or whatsoever. Is that the country today is fighting an unseen enemy, an enemy that has no respect for anybody. And as long as there's no vaccine or no cure for this disease, the only cure that we have is the non-pharmaceutical intervention, which is advocacy, which is sensitization, which is public enlightenment. And I think that's the role the media is playing very, enviably. So we commend them for that. I think the broadcast industry has probably enjoyed more cushion from the federal government than any other arm of the industry in recent times. At the outbreak of this pandemic, we first offered a 2-month payment waiver to all broadcast houses. Are just struggling to survive because our findings are that as of today, most broadcast houses have lost 52% of the advertisements. 60% of the adverts have been suspended. Under 80% has been recalled to be replaced. So we saw that we need to do something, and that is why we took the step to forgive all broadcast stations 60% of their debts. Of course, this with a caveat that they need to pay within 3 months. I think that will expire October 6th, if I remember very well. At the same time, we also took the unprecedented step of reducing renewal fees by another 30%. So I think, is this not because we don't have to do this? Because when there's a war, and believe me, COVID-19 is a war in another form. All hands must be on deck to fight that war. No professional is exempted from COVID-19 rampaging destruction. So we believe that we need to join hands together, but we have been very, very sensitive and also been very concerned about the industry. The DSO, I agree with you absolutely that the DSO is actually one of the fastest ways to create jobs in this industry. We've had some setbacks, but we have resumed, and very soon you are going to see rollout in several parts of the country. I'm sure you noticed that recently we also set up a committee to look into the creative industry, especially how much they've been affected by the pandemic and the way out. And one of the major recommendations of that committee is that the industry needs to be restructured. The only way out to move more Nigerians out of poverty, especially in this industry, is by migrating from analog to digital. In the coming weeks and months, you will hear from us on the new rollout on the DSO. Thank you very much. It is content that drives advertisement. When I was much younger, anytime we hear this signal tone for village headmaster, we drop whatever we are doing. And even though there were a few television stations, televisions in houses in those days, people used to watch from the windows. That was the prime time. That was the time when Homo, Sov, everybody, locks were advertised. Now, somebody created that. You don't pay that fellow. You make millions from the sales of Maggie, riding on the creativity of that guy. And you say we should not intervene. Because we are going to intervene. Because we don't, the entire industry will die. And that is why we've set up the advertising measurement system committee, task team, to look at how do you measure how many people watch a particular program. When do they watch it? How do they watch it? You see, another contentious area in our provision is when I think again here has to do with how we want to monitor advertisement and content, which people are kicking against. And our position is very clear on this matter, which is that you cannot continue to shortchange the content owners and television stations and be going and be laughing to the bank. Because without those platforms and without the content, there will be nowhere for you to advertise your product. So whatever we are doing is geared at making this industry sustainable in the first place. So those people who are talking about breaking monopoly, I think they know what they are talking about. You see, and there's nothing we are doing that is new. Let me remind you this. Even before now, the NBC created a time belt, I think between 7 and 11 p.m. It was called prime time.
Family belt.
Prime
Family belt.
family belt. That belt is the time when people are home, and that's the time that there are more people watching television. So NBC now said, at that time, you must ensure that only local programs, local content is shown. What did that people do to circumvent it? They will go and make a film in South Africa and say that Lai Mohammed and Idachaba are producers and directors. Then to qualify for local content. And then, but meanwhile, the film was shot in South Africa. The lead director is South Africa. The lead producer is South Africa. All the cameramen are South Africans. The money stays in South Africa, it doesn't come to Nigeria. Then you come and show it on network, between 7 and 11. And then whoever is selling Maggi or is selling locks makes a lot of profit at the expense of Nigerians. Say no. Today, for your program to qualify as local content, the content is 75% Nigeria. The location 75% Nigeria. The director 75% Nigeria. And this is why they are kicking against these regulations. Like the chairman of chairman of AUJ said, I think we need a platform to break these things down. Because unfortunately, our detractors are so powerful that they have even confused the beneficiaries of this amendment. Otherwise, we'll not be asking the question you're asking. I mean, they are so powerful, and they'll come and bring examples which are not relevant to Nigeria. And even the small content producer, the television stations that we are trying to protect, are the platform they are using to attack us. But we are not deterred. Because at the end of the day, prosperity will prove us right. Thank you very much. We had about 26 participants, and we discussed extensively on the way forward for the print industry. And only last week, I had to remind Chief Indoka about the response. I mean, the NPAN is supposed to forward to me certain information based on which we are going to act on what we can do for the industry. So it's we're looking at each of the industry, whether it be print, but you see, whether it be print, whether broadcasting. But what we have done is that in the committee we set up, the reports were, we had about 8 sectors. And under advertising, radio and television, we took the print industry. And frankly speaking, what drives the industry, whether it is print, whether it is radio, whether it is television, is advertising. So we're trying to address those issues that have been raised by the committee, and the implementation committee will be set up in a few days' time to implement those recommendations. And some of the recommendations, some that need to go to council, will go to council. But in addition, we also engage directly the NPAN, and we are waiting for their input on the way forward. I thank you very much on for your suggestion on the amendment and the need to, well, in bracket, domesticate, or the need that we need to break this thing down and use every platform possible to explain to people what the amendments are all about. We would continue to use every opportunity to so do, and I'm sure the NBC will also do the same. Thank you very much. I think this day you had a question about exclusivity and monopoly. And in particular, you asked what happens if a broadcast station buys an EPA right for say 250 million naira dollars, and then we expect that they want to force him to sell. That will not be unconstitutional, right? Yes. Now, in the first instance, the provision on exclusivity and monopoly, and the provision that if you buy a right, you must sell, is actually a law. It's not even a provision of the code at all. The Nigerian Copyright Commission Law Act actually makes it mandatory that if you buy a right, you must sell that right to whoever wants to buy at a price to be agreed by the parties.
Yeah.
So it's not, we see, by including it in the code, we were simply re-emphasizing what's already in the law. One. Two, the truth of the matter is that all the giants of today, be it Amazon, be it iTunes, be it Netflix, started by sub-licensing. It was from sub-licensing that they now became the big producers they are today. And it's only in Africa that we have this business model whereby I can go and buy rights and then hold it to myself and not to sell to anybody. It's only in Africa. And interestingly enough, about a week ago, I saw that the same issue rose its ugly head in Liberia. Because the Liberian authorities also said, no, that is not right. But more importantly, is this. Look at it this way. We want to encourage local content. Then how do you encourage local content if everybody watches just one channel? Go to the UK, you can watch the Premier League on many channels. So what we are doing is, one, we are reinforcing what the law already says, as the Copyright Commission Act. Number two, we are looking at a situation whereby we can encourage local content. We can encourage local creativity. And we want television stations that are not as, don't have the kind of muscles, I mean the kind of financial muscle, to be able to be financially sustainable. But mind you, there is no compulsion. If nobody approaches you to sell your right, you don't have to sell. And even when you are approached, you agree at, the price. If you fail to agree, then the regulator comes in, and every negotiation will have to follow the Arbitration Act of Nigeria. So I do not see, any attempt to harm twist anybody. Now, you also asked the question of advertising debt. You see, what people have failed to understand about this industry is that we're being ripped and we are being deprived of revenue. I'm talking about we Nigeria. You see, advertising is what actually, okay, put it this way, content drives advertisement. Because it's the content that will attract eyeballs to a particular station. Now, what we have in Nigeria today is that you see a company goes to Brazil and spends $1 million to create an opera, a soap, or even a reality show, brings it to Nigeria, uses that content advertisers look at that content, they advertise their product during that opera or during that soap. But the product that they're advertising on that, using that content, will be consumed by Nigerians. Meanwhile, we have taken out $1 million to Brazil. We have strengthened the economy of Brazil. We have created jobs for Brazilians. Yet the people that will buy that product might be Omo, might be Maggi, and Nigerians. And we said no. I think that's section 7.8 now, yes, of the code. We said if you try that, we are going to fine you, you pay a penalty, and we put that penalty into a fund to encourage Nigerian local content. Now, to come back to your question about why is it AFCON that should do that? No, it's not AFCON. We are the regulator. Yeah. And I will tell you why we are the regulator. You see, when a bank fails today, central bank must make provision to pay a certain percent. I think it's NDIC, sorry. Will make provision to pay a certain percentage of your deposit in that bank. In other words, if you have $1 million in a bank and that bank fails, the law makes it compulsory for NDIC, which is subsidiary of central bank, to pay you a certain sum of that your $1 million, sorry, $1 million which you have put in the bank. Right. Therefore, the central bank that knows that at the end of the day, if these things fail, is going to pay you, he has a responsibility to ensure that your bank does not fail. That is why he made that law that if you owe Fidelity Bank and you have money in Access Bank, they will take your money in Access Bank to pay Fidelity Bank. Otherwise, they are going to run down Access Bank as you have run down Fidelity Bank. That's exactly what we are doing in this provision. If you owe channels or AIT, don't run to NTA. Settle channels first. Settle AIT. Otherwise, you are going to run all of them down. Because then why are we doing this? Because if they run AIT down and channels down, how will they pay our own fees? So it's both enlightening self-interest and at the same time to ensure that you have financial sustainability. Now, I've had all kinds of attacks. Say, are you a court of law? No, I'm not a court of law, I'm a regulator. Because if you go to court, it might take 10 years. By the time the matter is resolved, there will be no AIT, there will be no channels. Then look at the issue of the poor content creator. The formula we have today is not working.
So we don't want you to go beyond the limits of your campus. That's the idea. And don't forget, community radio, your license fee is probably zero compared to the commercial stations that pay millions. I get a sense, and we get this all the time, that when campus radios, community radios see how powerful and influential they are, they begin to think about revenues that can accrue, and then begin to whet their appetite by looking for additional coverage space. If you want a commercial radio, you can apply. If there's frequency, you get. But your license is discounted heavily by government because we want you to engage in social responsibility, community development, basically. And that is why we say you do that, like the Honorable Minister said so simply, you do it within the confines of your own space. So don't be tempted by the attractions of commercials. Remain focused on your objective. Yes, emergency is fine. Emergency is within your community. And you did that. By the way, Honorable Minister, like you said, they did that so very well. You know, all the campus radios were the first to carry the PTF jingles free of charge, and they didn't charge anything. Though also on our own side in NBC, sir, we gave them palliative.
The issue of bandwidth is very technical. If we extend your own, then nobody will hear you. Because they're going to jam the others.
Absolutely.
They will go and buy equipment of 10, 20, and then they jam other people. This is what is happening. And I know many people have been telling me, look, we want license. I said, look, we can't give everybody license in Lagos. Already, there are even no frequencies again in Lagos. So I think, I'm sure that the DG NBC will probably give more technical reasons why we cannot. But we want to commend you for the work you are doing, and that's the purpose of the community radio. I think the gentleman asked two questions. The first has to do with
the percentage over the 60%, what it will amount to. So 60% of 7.8.
You see, honestly, I don't like dealing with figures. I will tell you why. No, I'm serious, because it's too sensational. However, let me tell you, what is the wisdom in what we have done? Some of these debts have been owed for 6 years, 7 years. Now, if I give you a discount, even if you owe me just 1 million, and I give you a discount of 600,000, and you pay in 400,000, my account is plus 400,000. If I don't give you a discount, it's zero, because you won't pay. Now, so for us, we want a win situation for everybody. We want you to be able to pay so that you can make more money. We want to receive money from you so that we can also, be able to sustain ourselves. Then you asked the question about, pardon? Okay, let me explain. You see, there was this fine of 500,000 naira that we elevated to 5 million. Why did we do that? We realized that surely in the run-up to the campaign, to campaigns, people take adverts to a radio station or television station, and the television station or the station says, no, we can't take this advert. This advert is hate speech. It's divisive, message, and we are going to be fined 500,000. He said, don't worry, we'll pay 1 million extra. So that when they fine you 500,000, you still make a profit. So we said, if we now raise it to 5 million, let's see how much it's going to bribe you.
We wanted to make it 20 in your kindness.
Yes. So that is the rationale for increasing it. However, if 3 times we fine you, you pay, you do not desist, we'll just suspend your license.
Fantastic.
Pure and simple. What was that other question you asked?
That's all.
That's all. Thank you very much.